You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
And announced it's 2 games back of New York and the D-backs for the final wild card spot with 11 to play. And the WNBA announced its 15th franchise has been awarded to Portland.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Wednesday, September 18, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. My main man, Chase Brumfeld, right there, just literally about 10 feet away on the other side of the glass, manning the controls, taking your phone calls this morning on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. That number is always 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Good morning. It is beautiful outside today. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just Chamber of Commerce weather. And the weather's going to be like this throughout the weekend. I just hope it's this nice next weekend for the Georgia game as it's going to be this weekend. You almost wish you were playing this weekend because the weather is going to be fabulous all through. But I'm sure we're hitting that period now where the weather should be good for the most part until we get into, I don't know, mid-November maybe before the rain. You know, usually October is a pretty dry month here, and I think the rest of September looks pretty good too. So weather's great right now. Enjoy it. We got a great show on tap for you. I'll tell you all about it in just a moment. First, though, I need to tell you, as always, this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you by my good friends at Alabama Credit Union. Discover the heart and soul of our member-owned credit union, empowering our members, enriching our community. Alabama Credit Union is more than just a financial institution. It's a member-owned community deeply rooted in rich historical values. Our central focus is empowering members, driving us to positively impact the community through financial success. We believe in the thriving connection between our members and our community. Alabama Credit Union. Loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership. Then join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's the rundown today. We are loaded. 9:30, Matt Coulter on NASCAR. Can't wait for that, man. Another great race over the weekend at Watkins Glen. It was intense. Great final lap pass by Chris Buescher to win. We've got Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV at 10 o'clock. He couldn't be with us on Monday, so he's with us today. That should be a great segment. And then at 10:30, Larry the Music Man, Larry Butler, former traveling band member all over the country and has played sessions with some of the greatest bands in the world and lives in Atlanta. And he joins us weekly to kind of talk about the music scene in the South and beyond. Very popular segment, so we're looking forward to that. Your phone calls, as I said, are welcome at 205-342-9904. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. All right, some stories making headlines. Tua placed on injured reserve by the Miami Dolphins. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that he has to miss at least 4 games at a minimum. That is mandated by the league and the Players Association. It does not mean that he will necessarily come back after 4 games. The Dolphins could extend that. They have said that their priority right now is his health and his family, and that for him, they want him to take some time before he returns to the football field. So minimum of 4 games for the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa, the former Alabama quarterback. Meanwhile, in Carolina, in Charlotte, Carolina Panthers are preparing to face the Las Vegas Raiders out in Las Vegas without Bryce Young as their starting quarterback. That move announced Monday by head coach Dave Canales. We've discussed it a lot the last couple of days. I don't agree with it. I don't think you turn to Andy Dalton after 2 games of the former number 1 overall picks season, and a season in which they didn't even play the guy in the preseason to try to get him acclimated to this new system. It just looks like Bryce. Now, listen, financially, number 1 overall pick, he's going to make a lot of money even on his rookie contract, but it's not about money. At this point, it's about him as a quarterback, and I think he's been failed by the Carolina Panthers in a lot of different ways. But it is what it is, Andy Dalton gets the start on Sunday. Bryce Young, the backup for the Carolina Panthers. Tennessee making some news. I don't know if you saw this, Chase. They're going to add a 10% surcharge to their tickets to pay the players, to take that money and pay the players and the student athletes at Tennessee. Not that these tickets are already not expensive enough. Now, we're going to charge you 10% more because we got to make sure that we've got plenty of money for the student athletes and the NIL. This is just the modern world of college football and college athletics. All Alabama fans hoping that doesn't happen here. Fans, I'm sure, at other schools are hoping, saying, my gosh, man, we're already paying out the yin-yang. You don't want to add 10%. But Tennessee's saying, hey, that's what we need to do. And they're hot right now, and they're playing great football, and that hasn't always been the case, as we know, over the last 15, 20 years for Tennessee. So I guess they're trying to strike while the iron is hot. Speaking of the Vols, that's the marquee game in the SEC this week. Tennessee travels to Oklahoma, and Josh Heupel played quarterback at Oklahoma, led them to a national championship, and then was the offensive coordinator, and then was dumped back in 2015 by head coach Bob Stoops. And it worked out for Heupel, but he, I think, holds a little bit of a bitter taste in his mouth in regards to that. And that's going to be an interesting game. I think Tennessee appears to be a better football team than Oklahoma. They're favored on the road, but playing in Norman, it will be interesting to say the least. Also, Tate Ratledge, Georgia's All-American guard, having that tightrope surgery on his ankle. He's going to miss several games, including, of course, the Alabama game a week from Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. The Braves drop another tough one last night as they fall to the Reds in a game. I think they were up either 3 or 4 runs and wound up getting beat 6-5. So, we're in the countdown now. I mean, we're down to, I guess there's 15 games left, something like that. Let me look it up, so many games the Braves have left. They've got 11 games left, and they're 2 games back to the Mets now, as the Mets just continue to play great baseball, and the Braves are 2 games back to that final wild card spot. So it's getting concerning and a very real possibility the Braves will miss the postseason, which would be a disaster. I don't care what their injury situation is or anything like that. This team was one of the season favorites to win the World Series. If they don't even make the wild card, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow in Atlanta. And we'll see what happens with manager Brian Snitker if that is the case there. So the Braves 2 games back now, the Mets, for that final wild card spot. The Yankees have kind of quietly opened up, not quietly, but they've opened up a 4-game lead over the Orioles in the American League East. We thought that this race would go right down to the wire, and now it looks like the Yankees are going to kind of wind up winning this thing going away. That's what happens when you go 7-3 over your last 10 games and the Orioles go 3-7. There you go. That's the difference right there. If you're wondering about the Braves getting back to their playoff predictor and all that stuff with Major League Baseball, ESPN does a playoff predictor. The Braves have a 51.6% chance to make the postseason. So still over 50%, but not great. The Mets, meanwhile, 71.4%. So there you go. So that's not looking great for the Braves right now, but, maybe they can get hot, finish it off, and get into the playoffs and make some noise once they get there. All right, it is 9:10. 10 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock, and we're going to jump out on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904, and that's where we find Tom ready to lead us off. Good morning, Tom.
Gary, good morning. How are you?
Doing great.
The Braves and other teams as well, the Yanks and Baltimore and this, that, and the other, it's playoff baseball right now going down the stretch. It's pretty darn entertaining.
Oh, very. Yeah, this is yeah, you're right. I mean, it's you play they played 151 games so far, but you play 162 to get to the playoffs for an opportunity to go to the World Series. But yeah, you're right, down the stretch, particularly for those teams that are fighting to either win the division or get in as a wild card, it's very similar to playoff baseball. Every game matters, that's for sure.
I think so too. And but I was going to say this about the ticket prices. My basketball package went up, but guess what? I don't give a crap.
Well, there you go. And then maybe that's the way,
That's exactly right. Final Four, and I'm going to bitch about the price going up? No way.
Well, good. I mean, that's what say when you're winning.
Don't say good. Say I agree with you.
And that's why Tennessee's raising them right now, because they're hot. And
exactly.
You don't want to do it. You don't want to do it when you're losing. That's for sure. So
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
You hit the nail on the head. One of the best marketing tools there is strike while the iron's hot, or equal to that, the drug pusher marketing is get them hooked and raise the prices. Come on.
Yeah. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. But listen, you got to pay to play. And if you're fans, you got to pay to be in the venue. That's where we're at now. It's the days of, just getting in for $3 or $4, in the cheap seats even are gone. If you're in that stadium, now there'll be a game or two a year still where ticket prices will drop out, and drop low, and it'd be an opportunity. But all the marquee games are going to, even on the secondary market, are going to demand high prices but listen, when you're talking about Alabama football this year, particularly with an extra road game, 7 opportunities is all you have. 7 Saturdays out of 52 Saturdays to be in that stadium to witness Alabama football. So you're right, Tom. And in basketball, there's more opportunities, but still, there's not like there's still probably 20 opportunities to be inside Coleman Coliseum, something like that, a little more maybe than 20. So you're right. It's and when you're winning, people want to be there, and people are willing to pay those prices.
Well,
that's the key. Don't start losing now.
Well, I've gone when they were loose, and not that I'm any kind of freak. I'm not a hero. I'm not looking for a crown. Don't come at me telling me that. I'm not looking for a crown because I went to some games when they were bad. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you find something that's entertaining to you, and they put a product like they're putting on the floor right now, and they say we need a little bit more money. And you say, I love this basketball team. Well, how much do you love them? Do you love them enough to pay more to go see them? Well, in my case, in my wife's case, you better pay. This is what she said. You better get those tickets, and I mean right now. And so there it is. How about that?
Well, I think right now that's the way a lot of people feel with Alabama basketball. I think that the demand for tickets is probably the highest it's ever been. I mean, they just made history. I mean, you and I have been talking on this show now for 9+ years, and I have pointed out many times how many Alabama basketball teams I thought were Final Four caliber that didn't make it. There have been a number. And to finally make it, there's a buzz around this program.
That we didn't think we were going anywhere.
Well, last year?
Yeah,
I sure didn't. I mean, I thought they might get to the second round.
None of us did.
But then once they made the tournament, I picked them to go to the Final Four. How about that? I
know it, and I'll give you credit for that.
I saw then the potential, but during the season, I didn't think that was a Final Four team. But listen, that's what makes it. Pardon me. That's what makes it so interesting is that you have a number of teams that are good enough to go to the Final Four that don't, and then you have one that got hot at the right time, and that's
a good draw. Coach Sanderson said it, good draw.
Caught a good draw, and they had some good teams that had caught terrible draws. So, but that's the key, though. I had said this: if you knock on the door, and that's what Oates was doing. You knock on the door consistently, you're going to make it. Every now and then we see it. You'll have a program that just comes out of nowhere and goes to the Final Four, but usually the teams that go to Final Fours are the teams that consistently put themselves in position to do it. And that's what Alabama was doing under Nate Oates. And now I expect it to be a rate. I expect this to happen. I'm 60, and let's just say I live to 80, all right?
Hey, we're expecting for all them years we were wanting to go and didn't go, we're expecting to catch up now, right?
That's what I'm saying. Over the next 20 years, I wouldn't be shocked if Alabama went a half dozen times to Final Fours. I really wouldn't. One every 2 or 3 years. I mean, I think they're going to have that kind of program. So we'll see.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to say this, too. Did you see Coach Oates' picture at the Wisconsin game? He was on the sideline.
I did,
Did you see that?
Yeah, of course he's
I
from.
thought they were pretty good.
Yeah, he's from up there, so it was kind of a double whammy for him.
I get that part. I got that.
I know, but I'm saying it was a double. He was going to go to the game, but it was a chance to go home too. So yeah, it was kind of a double whammy for him. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, and I thought it was good that he was up there and looked like he was having fun to me.
Well, he loves Alabama football. He knows.
Yeah, he looked right at home with all those Scandinavian ancestors.
Yeah, he knows what a big part of building. He knows what a big part of building this basketball program has been helped by football for sure.
That's correct. See you, Gary.
All right, thanks, Tom. 9:17 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're off and running. We'll take a timeout, open for more phone calls in the next segment. We can talk Bama football, Bama basketball for that matter. Whatever it is you want to discuss, give us a call, 205-342-9904. Matt Coulter on NASCAR coming up at 9:30. This is the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Wednesday morning. Lock your cars. That's the advice being given by the Tuscaloosa Police Department after a recent string of car thefts around the city. They report 80% of the vehicles broken into were unlocked cars. They also add many of the guns stolen are from unlocked cars. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news, sports, and weather coverage all throughout the day. It is absolutely free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meet.
$79, now just $99. Shop these deals and more before they're gone, because Lowe's knows pros. Valid 9/16 through 9/18. Selection varies by location.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's management dream team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show.
Goal line in, touchdown, Alabama.
On your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9. And streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 921, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. That's where we find Philip. Good morning, Philip.
Hey, good morning, Gary. Hey, I was wanting to talk to you about a couple of things, if I could. The Florida football program. You know, everybody's talking about Lane Kiffin and all this money that the Florida Gators have, and I know they have a lot. But if they've got so much money, why don't they go after Sarkisian?
I mean, I don't know what their plan is going to be if they go after another coach. Having a ton of money, doesn't separate you from a lot of other schools right now that are, I get a feeling that just my gut instinct says that Kiffin is going to be high in the mix there. I think his attitude, his swagger fits them, but you're talking a lot of money. Nobody's got more money than Texas. Philip, nobody.
Well, no, I'm just saying.
They may go after Sark, but that doesn't mean they're going to be able to get him. I mean, no matter how much money you throw at Sark, Texas can probably match it or pay him more. I mean, so wouldn't you be better off going after a coach that you felt like you had a better opportunity to get? I mean, and not that Ole Miss is paying Kiffin a ton. I'm not going to say that. Listen, they're not in a great situation right now. I don't care that it is Florida. That's a program right now that's buried. In the SEC, I question their infrastructure as far as the way the program is built. And I'm not talking about facilities. I'm talking about in terms of the inner workings of the program. A new coach is going to have to come in there and have, I think, some assurances that he'll be able to run his program his way. And because I think one thing about the boosters, if they make the next hire and they pay the money, they give Billy Napier $26 million, then they pay how many millions to bring the new coach in. Some of those people may want some say-so and how things are done. Who controls the purse string sometimes controls who runs the program. And so I don't know that just because it's Florida at this point that people are just going to jump up and down and say, hire me. Lane Kiffin's got a great situation at Ole Miss. I don't think in a million years Steve Sarkisian would leave Texas for Florida. And there's a lot of other great coaches that have great situations that may not. So firing the guys just half of that's why Florida's in the situation they're in now. They've been firing coaches left and right. Alabama went through that for a while. Just because you change coaches doesn't mean that the new coach is going to come in and be successful either. You got to make the right hire. And like I continually say, there are more top jobs available than there are top coaches to fill them. I believe that's a fact. I mean, a lot of these coaches coaching at these FBS programs aren't good. They're not top tier coaches. Just because they've got a job at a top tier program doesn't make them a top tier coach. So the pickle for Florida is getting rid of Napier is just one half of the equation. You got to make sure you get somebody better. And I don't know right now. I don't know where they're going to go. I think Kiffin will be a home run. I really do. I just think everything about Lane Kiffin fits that persona of the program the way they would like to have it, a Spurrier type of guy. But again, I don't know with what all Ole Miss has done for him, if he would see that right now as a better job. We just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, so a big weekend for Florida. If they lose to Mississippi State,
if they lose to Mississippi State, I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. If they lose to Mississippi State, that'll be his last game he ever coaches at the University of Florida. I mean, Mississippi State right now is awful. They got run out of their own stadium by Toledo. And no disrespect to Toledo, but when you're getting run in your own stadium by a MAC team, not just beaten, but I mean run out of the stadium, then
destroyed.
Yeah, then you got some issues. So I think Florida wins that game, but if they don't, that'll be the last. I think they would get him. He would be out by Sunday. It is a huge game.
It could possibly happen anyway, Gary, because I've got an off week after Mississippi State.
It could happen anyway. It could, but I'm just saying, and you're obviously thinking the same thing. If he loses to Mississippi State, go ahead and pull up the U-Haul because it's over.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Hey, Gary, who was Florida thinking about hiring before they hired Napier?
It's a good question. Was it I'd have to, I know this. Napier was high on their list. I can't remember if they got rebuffed by some other. I'd have to go back and look that up. I can't remember. But you have to remember one thing about Billy Napier. He was a hot candidate. The job he did at Louisiana was top notch. And I would argue that at some point if he goes back to that type of program, he can have success. I think he's a good football coach. I do. Yeah. I just think that for whatever reason, I'm not sure he's the modern day CEO, the modern day kind of coach that you need to run these type of programs in the SEC. But he did a really good job at Louisiana, and I think he was one of their top targets. Scott Strickland identified him, zeroed in on him. I tell you this, I said it at the time, so it's not revisionist history. I still think it was a mistake to fire Dan Mullen. I think Dan Mullen's an excellent football coach. I think Dan Mullen did a good job at Florida. He got pegged with that he doesn't recruit type of deal, and it built so much momentum. But he had a pretty good run there, man. And
he did.
I thought that was a mistake to fire him. And then, when they brought in Napier, I questioned it at the time, and it certainly has not worked out. And now it seems like it's just a matter of time. But, if he loses to Mississippi State Bulldogs, it's over.
Yeah. Well, look, I know you do your picks tomorrow, right?
Friday.
Yeah. Well, I'm eager to hear your Tennessee Oklahoma pick.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure that one out myself. Thank you, Phil.
I'm struggling here at work, and I'm gonna need your help.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you. All right, let's get to Roland here over in Guntersville. Hey, Roland.
Morning, Gary. I'll go quick. I know you're up.
No, all right. Go ahead. You got time.
I noticed where Georgia's like a 2 or 3 point favorite, and that's fine. I don't care. It just makes me wonder though. Sometimes what these guys are looking at, and I know you have Drew every week on your show, and I agree with Drew. Every position on the offense, I'd take Alabama player over the Georgia player right now. Every one of them. And I know Georgia's a little bit more stable with the coaching. They've been there for a while and all that. But I don't think this Alabama stuff has to take a back seat to nobody. And time will tell. But like Drew said, I'd take I take our quarterback over theirs. I take our running back over theirs. I take our receivers, our tight ends, our offensive line. And, and for Georgia to be a 2 or 3 point favorite come in and take this, I think that's a little bit slap in the face.
Well, again, Roland, the way that the odds makers, they have no bias at all. They couldn't care. I mean, I'm being honest with you. The people that set these lines, they couldn't care less about who's playing who. All they're trying to do is set a number that they feel like will get an equal amount of play on each team. So a lot of it is driven by perception. Then once they set the number, they adjust it based on where the money comes in. And in other words, if let's say Georgia's a 2.5 point favorite, and then there's a much more money being put on Alabama, you'll see that line drop to 2 or 1.5 or 1. If more money comes in on Georgia, you'll see the number raised to get more play on Alabama. So there's no bias involved with that. And so I don't think that, people need to be concerned about that in regards to, I don't think it's a slap in the face. It's just the number that's set by the odds makers in terms of gambling. That's it, period. They don't, so that's the way that's done. So the perception is if Georgia is a 2.5 point favorite right now, the perception is probably that Georgia is, going to be a little bit better. And they felt like they set that line there that they would get, a equal amount of play, but they'll adjust the line based on the amount of, next week it might be pick 'em by then if a bunch of money comes in on Alabama. So we'll see.
I kind of think it will be.
Yeah. So, but the great thing about it is it really doesn't matter. I mean, when they got on the field, it as I said before, if you're a 10-point favorite, they don't let you start the game 10-0. You still start at 0-0. So you got to go play.
Let me ask this before I go.
Yeah.
On basketball. I think we're going to be terrific. And like Tom said, I'm so excited about our basketball program and the future of it and all that. But man, Coach Oates has got a problem. I mean, he's got 13 players that probably all could start at most places, a lot of places. I mean, this is not only a really good roster, it's a deep roster. Mm-hmm. And how do you
Well, I don't identify how many you identify. Early in the year in some of these games where they're much better than the competition, he'll play a bunch of guys, and then he'll start trying to narrow down the play-in rotation, and he'll come up with a play-in rotation that he feels like is best suited to them winning. The guys that aren't playing a lot, he'll talk to them and explain to them why they're not. Maybe it's inexperience, and he'll try to talk them through it. But you know what? When the season's over, if they're not happy, some of them will go in the portal. That's you're right. You're not going to play 13 guys every game. Some of these guys aren't going to play. That's the reality of a basketball roster. And so,
but I really like this roster, though.
I do too.
It's loaded.
I love it. I love this team on paper. I think it's a top 3 team in the country, and now you got to go out and prove it on the court, and hopefully they will.
Okay, Gary, I'll let you go. Well, you have a good day.
Thank you, Roland. Always a pleasure to hear from you. 9:31 here on the Gary Harris Show. Hey, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa is ready for you when you're ready for the Y. It's just that simple. 2300 13th Street. Through the month of September, no joining fee. In other words, you go to the Y, you sign up, start paying your dues, and get to work. No joining fee. Also, 10% off all the personal training packages that are available, whether duo or single. And it's just a great facility, great people, great place to work out, a great place to get fit. And I should know, I've been a member for over 20 years. The YMCA of Tuscaloosa.
They bundled their home and auto insurance with Progressive. Touchdown savings, birdie goal.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgage.
And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at VaxAssist.com.
So where should we go next?
Sponsored by Pfizer.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, the low 65. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Friday and Saturday, hot and dry. Lots of sunshine both days with highs very close to 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Where the season never ends. This is your home of Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
5:35, and it's time for Matt Coulter on NASCAR. And, man, we just keep getting fantastic finishes. Good morning, Matt.
Wow, what a great finish. And for Buescher to do it around a seasoned road course guy was just fantastic.
I tell you, absolutely. I think talking with you over the years, I think you have always indicated that you think Chris Buescher is a really talented race car driver. And I get the vibe that other drivers out there think so too. And he's been okay. He's not bad, but it hasn't happened for him maybe the way I think his talent would indicate that it should. But to go to a road course and beat a road course specialist and, you had the race in control, it looked like, and then, late cautions that we get inevitably regardless of what kind of track we're on, and then it looked like he was destined to finish second. And, Matt, you take it from there. I mean, the move that he made, we've seen some great moves since we've been doing this segment. That ranks up there near the top, right?
Indeed, it did. And I just watched it again literally before we hit the air button and was still kind of, very impressed by it. But, SVG made a couple of unforced errors.
He did. And he opened the door. He sure did.
Yes, he did. He opened the door, and he went up to Buescher after the race and congratulated him. I think there was some people who thought that maybe the move was too aggressive. But I say, what to that?
Yeah, that was good racing there.
And SVG made an error, and Buescher went low, and, they swapped some paint, but that SVG would have done the same thing. Anybody out there would have done the same thing. But it made for a fantastic finish, and, yes, I've always thought that Buescher was a really talented driver. It's just taking him a while to get into really good equipment. And now he's there, and now he's winning a race or two a year, and that's fantastic, even though in this case he was a non-playoff driver. But only two of the playoff drivers finished in the top 10. It was something crazy like that. But anyway, Buescher's also one of the nicest guys out there, so I like to see him win.
Yeah, you and I talked about this. And, of course, the road course are a little bit of an outlier. But, we had said, Kyle Busch just went on record as saying, hey, I'm trying to win races. I don't care about whether the guy's in the playoffs or not. But we got, as you said, a non-playoff driver winner, which I guess if you are in the playoffs and you don't win, you'd much rather a non-playoff driver win, right? As far as your situation with the playoffs?
Sure. It worked out great for Logano, and, of course, Christopher Bell is actually atop the point standings. But, why not? And why not, by the way, if you're one of the drivers that's in the top 16 looking for 12, why not have somebody wreck half the contenders? Looking outside in are Hamlin, Keselowski, Truex, and Burton.
Wow. Well, it's only going to heat up at Bristol. We'll get to that in a minute. But I want to talk to you a little bit more on Buescher because, again, he seems to be a guy that's very sponsor responsible. I mean, he does a good job of taking care of his sponsors. He's very articulate. He just seems to have the total package. I guess as I said, he just probably, while he's been okay, he's not a superstar. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to mention. Tell us more about, at 31 years of age now, his team, for RFK, they've made improvements this year. And I guess what I'm asking you is, can he take the next step at 31? Can he become a superstar, or is he more in line with just being, kind of stuck in the good category? What about the future for this guy?
Well, I think the future of this guy has a lot to do with the future of Keselowski and that entire team.
Right.
They've got to step on it. I'll be honest, I've been kind of disappointed in their efforts, especially since Keselowski came over.
Right.
But for Buescher, yes, he can move forward, but I don't think he can do it if that team doesn't take some steps to move forward as well. So that's Buescher, but like you said, he's a really, really nice guy. And, he's on the outside looking in the playoffs, certainly, because he's not eligible. But I could see him getting there in the future. But one of the reasons that he's not in the forefront is because, hey, he didn't make the playoffs this year.
That's right. And that's the goal. And but winning a race is winning a race. So it's kind of bittersweet for Buescher from the standpoint that he gets that important win, but not knowing you're not in the playoffs and it doesn't count toward the playoffs is disappointing. But yeah, he's a good driver. He's a guy that I like. I've always kind of thought, like you, that he's probably a little underachieved just a little bit, but we will see. All right, we go to Bristol, and it's going to be a night race on a Saturday night at the Coliseum. And give us the track rundown.
All right. Well, it's one of our favorites, and one of these days, it's bucket list material for us. We got to go.
Absolutely.
I guess since Alabama's not playing this weekend, we could go this weekend, but I don't know if I'm ready to do that or not. So when I'm at the age where now I have to plan something.
I know you and I kind of kicked it around a few weeks ago, but we never really got too serious about it. If we had been too serious, I'd have called you. You'd have called me. I think as it gets closer, we're like, you know what? Saturday night, no Alabama game, sitting at home watching that race on TV, flipping back and forth in college football doesn't sound all bad, does it?
No, it really doesn't, especially at the breakneck speed you're at. Bristol was built in 1961. That's 63 years ago. It's only 5.533 miles, so it's half-mile track. The banking and the turns goes from 24 to 28. Keep in mind, Daytona's 31, Talladega's 33. It's like racing inside of a teacup.
Yep.
And that's a quote from some guy. I think Rusty Wallace said it's like trying to fly a jet plane in a gymnasium. But it has always provided great entertainment for the NASCAR fan, and I have no doubt, especially since it's at night, you'll be watching it and I'll be watching it. It's going to be a fantastic race, and I am really, really glad Bristol is and hopefully will remain a playoff event.
I do too. All right, before we get to the picks, and you have the first pick, this is one of those classic tracks where there is going to be, your car is going to get beat up. And people like to say, I've noticed, tempers are short. But I think sometimes tempers are not as short because this is one of those tracks where you just accept it. There's no staying clean. And you're not going speeds enough where it's necessarily dangerous. It's just part of that race. So I think maybe every now and then somebody late in a race might lose their cool, but you just accept it as part of the track, right? You're not going to, I got, somebody bumped me. It's not going to probably keep you from driving. It's not going to. So I think tempers probably aren't as short in a race like this, Matt. Am I right there?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think that's one of the reasons why the drivers enjoy it so much, because most all of these guys got their start on, quarter and third mile dirt tracks, and that's what they did. They weren't banked like this, but they were used to the banging and the beating, and they liked it. It's a true challenge, the ability to keep the four tires on the ground underneath you while you're also rubbing paint, and when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive. So that's why Bristol always just gives us such a great show, and it will again Saturday night.
All right, you get the first pick. Christopher Bell currently leads the standings, and he's a guy here I think probably to watch too. But where are you going? Who do you like?
Well, looking it up this morning, trying to do a little homework. Kyle Busch has won there 8 times. Is this the race where he just doesn't come close again? He actually comes out there and win it?
He wants a win badly, you know that.
Yeah, and it won't matter who's in front of him if they come down the last
No,
lap.
He's not going to care about who's in his playoff.
He'll push anybody out of the way. But, after what happened to him last where'd that come from? Excuse me. After being put literally behind the 8 ball, I'm going to go with chalk. I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I'm kind of going to go with chalk too, but a little bit now all of a sudden, not chalk. You and I talked about it. Kyle Larson has really dropped off.
A little bit.
And yet I think at this track, he's also got a very good resume at this track, very strong, as does Hamlin. I think that Larson, needs to get back on track, and I think it's going to happen at Bristol. So I'm gonna take Kyle Larson.
Well, they are 1-2 when he goes to Vegas, and then Christopher Bell is third best money on the line with the odds. So we'll see. We're kind of coming close down the stretch. It's 3-2. I certainly would like to tie it up, and I know you'd like to double me up. So let's go race it at Bristol.
Yeah, I feel a little snake bitten. I had a couple picks that Blaney and Logano both had races I thought won when I had picked them, and they didn't win. So maybe this is, you and I kind of going the chalk in this one. I think that I'll be surprised if one of those two aren't in the final handful of cars with a chance to win late. I'll tell you that. So hopefully it'll be Larson and not Hamlin, but we'll see.
Well, it takes a lot of experience to win at that track, although there have been a couple first-time winners there. But, experience really helps at Bristol because you know when to charge and when to lay back.
That's right.
We'll see which one of them does it.
Well, we're getting I know we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but are you getting geared up for Talladega? Has that race started at all?
Less than a month away, and we'll start getting ready with some preparation meetings and some production and stuff like that. But it's part of the playoffs, and I love the fact that it is. I can't predict too far in the future about the weather, but, weather's been pretty darn nice here of late. I think it's going to get kind of hot this week. But, I'm really looking forward to it. I love being a part of that. The fact that I've been able to go over there so many times and, toss a little of what I do into the mix. And hopefully I'll be able to do that again this weekend. It's the weekend of the 6th, if I'm just doing it off the top of my head.
Well, while I got you, of course, no pregame or postgame show this weekend because there's no game, which works out, as we said, well for Bristol. But you and Wyatt doing the work here on Tide and the Bear with some pregame stuff, and of course DC. How's that been going so far? I know there was one game y'all were late getting on, but how's that been working out?
Yeah, sometimes when you get these night starts like 6 and 6:30, and it'll be the case with Georgia, we don't go on until past midnight. But Bama fans are still up; they're still calling in, so that's a good thing. That Wyatt and I do the post game. Want to give a plug to walk-ons, and then the pre-game with DC and Christian Miller is at Grandstand. I will note this: that sometimes that falls victim to the actual time. So keeping that in mind, because last week we were on from 6 to 8 in the pregame. Of course, the Grandstand wasn't open. And then there are some weekends where walk-ons is closed because we're on so late. But just keep in mind, listen to Tide 100.9. We'll keep you apprised. And come down there and see us, have a burger and a beer.
All right. Thank you, Matt.
All right. You too, Greg.
All right, it's 9:48 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we've got to get to our break. We got one final segment in this first hour. Rodney Orr coming up to start off hour number 2 at 10 o'clock. That'll be a good conversation for sure, but we can get some more phone calls in on the next segment. Hey, weather is absolutely fantastic, and you know what that means? That means we're heading into what I say is the best time of the year to play golf. I think the fall in Alabama is even trumps the spring, in my opinion. Now the days are a little shorter, obviously, but at the same time, the weather is fantastic as the leaves start to change, and there are plenty of great visual fall trees in place at Tall Pines Golf Course in East Tuscaloosa. I'm telling you, once those leaves start to change, plus they got the pines, but they've also got some hardwoods there, it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Great time to play golf. Open to the public at Tall Pines Golf Club over there in Woodland Forest neighborhood, 6 days a week. Monday's the only day they're closed. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. Remember, memberships are available as well, but public play is invited, 205-556-1232. Tall Pines Golf Course, a hidden gem in Tuscaloosa. All right, we'll be back after this.
The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Box Eye Care. It's a Thursday edition. We'll have recruiting, and then it'll be all things offense with Alabama. We'll look at what Nick Sheridan had to say. We'd love to get you in on the conversation on the Empowerment Strategy and Solutions Hotline. That's 205-342-9904. Or join us on the live stream, and you can add your thoughts, your questions, and your comments there. You're listening to Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier right here on your home for for Alabama's.
By Fincher and Osmond. Fincher and Osmond carries artisan-created diamonds. And trust us, they are bigger than you expect. Visit www.fincherandosmond.com.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time at the Tuscaloosa Championship Golf Course. Everyone can play. 205-562-3201. Old Colony is operated by Para.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after.
Queso, sweet vinaigrette dressing, and spicy Cajun sauce. And check out our breakfast catering menu. Who's Q and Brew is open 7 days a week. We're located at 1825 McFarland Boulevard North in the Northridge Center.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And, of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour.
You 100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs, 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:53. You heard that commercial for Who's Q and Brew. Reminder, tonight's karaoke night. Karaoke night. Let me say it again. Karaoke night, as some people used to refer to it when I was in my singing days, Garyoke night. And one of these Wednesdays, I'm going to take off from the 10 o'clock sports, and I'm going to go up there and grab the mic and show you how it's done. But tonight, 7:30 to 9:30, Who's Q and Brew off Highway 82 in Tuscaloosa in the Northridge Center. Karaoke night, man. Get by and have some fun. Hang out, eat some great barbecue. Get that mic, man. Have a few cocktails or cold beers and get in the rhythm and the mood to sing and break it down tonight at 7:30 at Who's Q and Brew Karaoke night. All right, 9:54 here on the program. Alabama had a really impressive game against Wisconsin, and with that comes a lot of recognition. Burnett was the Ray Guy punter of the week. The offensive line, all five starting offensive linemen were the Outland Trophy players of the week. Proctor, Booker, Brailsford, Roberts, and Pritchett. And then Jalen Milroe, Chase, I don't know if you saw it, was Davey O'Brien player of the week. He was Maxwell player of the week. He was one of the Manning players of the week. I mean, and I said this, we got a couple of minutes here, so I'm going to go back and I like to pat myself on the back occasionally. A lot of football left, but I said back in the summer that Jalen Milroe would be a Heisman finalist. He would be in New York. And I think right now, 3 weeks in, with Ewers hurt, I don't do a Heisman list. I'm not a Heisman voter. I think Ryan Fowler is a Heisman voter. But Jalen Milroe would lead my list. He's accounted for 14 touchdowns in 3 games. Let that sink in for a minute. He does it on the ground. He does it through the air. So I'm high on Jalen Milroe. I can tell you that. And I continue to say that if he has the kind of year that he's capable of having, that's going to bode well for Alabama. And I picked Alabama to win the SEC in my media poll, SEC media poll preseason. I'm going to stay with that. Ellis likes to call in right before the break, so we're going to squeeze Ellis in here before we wrap up this first hour. Ellis, man, you're the master of getting in right before we close it out, buddy. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I was just going to say I'd had to have a whole lot of adult beverages before I'd stand up and sing on stage.
Oh, man, you could do it. It's just about having fun.
No.
I love singing. People that know me know that I love to get a mic in my hand and go at it. So,
Ooh, Lord, no, not me.
In fact, like I said, one of these Wednesday nights, I'm taking off from the 10 o'clock, and I'm gonna get up there and do a few tunes. But
well, I hope to get to see you next Friday.
Yeah, that game. There's going to be so many people in town for that game. This is one of those games where you'll have literally thousands of people that are coming to Tuscaloosa to be a part of the game that won't be in the stadium, that don't have tickets, but they're coming to tailgate or to be in a sports bar just to be here and be part of the buzz. And, Ellis, I don't get into politics on this show, but regardless of where you stand politically, it's a big deal to have the former president of the United States coming to the game. So
I was there the last time he came when we lost.
And so it's going to be next weekend. That's why I'm going to enjoy the calm before the storm, Ellis. I really am. I'm going to really enjoy this weekend, having a weekend off, being able to watch the race, being able to watch some other games, because next week it's going to be crazy in Tuscaloosa. And I'm not talking about just on Friday, Saturday. I'm talking about the entire week. It's going to be
all week.
Yes. And you're going to have game day here, and you're going to have every clown that's ever had a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever it is they do. Even if they can't get a credential to get into the game, they're going to come and set up around the stadium somewhere, or they're going to be calling up local establishments and trying to get a place. Every Yahoo that's ever had a microphone is going to be here to be around this game. And I'm fortunate I'll be credentialed and I'll be, actually in the press box covering the game. But there's going to be so much media here, dude. It's going to be crazy.
I'll be inside the stadium.
Good.
So I used to come all the time.
They're not keeping you out, Ellis. There ain't no way.
No.
Hey, man, I got to go, buddy. Good to talk to you.
All right, I'll call tomorrow, and I'll try to call before the break time.
Yeah, get in a little earlier. All right, that's going to wrap it up for hour number 1 of the Gary Harris Show. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Hour number 2 is coming up. We'll lead it off with Rodney Orr. You keep it dialed in to Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
Late scores in baseball from Tuesday. The Yankees handled the Mariners 11-2. Juan Soto hit his 40th homer of the year and the 200th of his career. New York now leads the AL East by 4 games after the Orioles were blanked by the Giants 10-0. Astros edged the Padres 4-3 in 10 innings. Houston expanded their division lead to 5 games. San Diego, meanwhile, still 3.5 back of the Dodgers in the NL West race. That is the closest division race currently. In the NL wildcard race, the Mets cruised past the Nats 10-1, while the Braves were clipped by the Reds 6-5. Atlanta now 2 games back of New York, and the D-backs for the final wildcard spot, still 11 games to play. In the AL, the Tigers are 1.5 back.
You're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at VaxAssist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, the low 65. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Friday and Saturday, hot and dry. Lots of sunshine both days with highs very close to 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show for this Wednesday morning, September 18, 2024. We're going to jump right in with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV. Normally with us on Mondays, not able to be with us this Monday due to a speaking engagement, so we've got him Wednesday, and it worked out well. Good morning, Rodney.
Hey, Gary, how are you?
Doing great and excited for this bye week. Before we jump into Wisconsin recap and looking ahead to Georgia, I had Matt Coulter on earlier for the NASCAR segment, but we were talking about the fact that there's a Saturday night race at Bristol, and next week's going to be so crazy that I think I'm going to enjoy the calm before the storm, Rodney. You know what I mean? What about you?
Well, yeah, you're right. It is going to be crazy, but yeah, it's always good on these bye weeks, Gary, on the Saturday, just to sit down and watch games, which we don't always get to do, watch some of these other teams. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and you kind of relax because, you just watch the game and get a feel for the league. All right, this past Saturday, we talked about this on Tider Insider TV last night. Going into this game, there were a lot of the analysts who said, Alabama better watch it. This is, it's tricky. And they're right. I mean, you're going up to a storied program on the road. Then after Alabama dispatched Wisconsin 42-10, I immediately started seeing all of this is not a vintage Wisconsin team. And, early in the year, Tyler Van Dyke went out, which is true. But I thought it was a really quality win. That was a very competitive game. I thought the big swing was when it was 14-3, and Wisconsin had a guy open in the end zone, and the backup quarterback missed him, and then they missed the field goal. And then Alabama, with I guess maybe less than a minute to play, went down in like 3 or 4 plays and scored and made it 21-3, and it's pretty much game over. But your perception of that game and what it means for Alabama going forward, and what it means in the short term to go up there and take care of a pretty good team on the road, 42-10.
Well, I think, to be able to do that, like you said, you're traveling to unfamiliar territory. It's a long way away. It's Kalen DeBoer's first road trip with these players. And I thought, they started kind of slowly, but I think once they kind of started gaining some momentum, they showed a lot of things. I mean, obviously, we've seen the explosiveness that they have offensively. We continue to see that. I think the run game with the offensive line was really, at times, very, very impressive. And I think this offensive line is going to be a big story as this season moves along. I think it certainly has a chance to be one of the bigger stories of this team. So I thought that was really, really promising. Again, defensively, I mean, I still think there's some things that they have to work on in terms of the rush defense, the run defense. They gave up 149 yards. They gave up 206. The week before against South Florida. Some inconsistencies there. But overall, I mean, they're limiting, points scored. Their third down defense is pretty amazing. They are allowing, some of these receivers to get open still. We've seen some guys running free. That's something that as you start to face some of the better quarterbacks could be, a real tough thing to deal with. But I think overall, Gary, right now, this team is just, starting to take each step, each game, and now you've got a really big step coming up here on the 28th against Georgia.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Mega game. I want to talk about Milroe because, as you know, and I've pointed out here on the radio station, I had to do a bold prediction deal for WVUA23.com in the preseason, and my bold prediction was that Jalen Milroe wins the Heisman Trophy. Now, it's a bold prediction, but you could look through the first 3 games. And I think, and listen, he's a quarterback. I get it. That's what we do with quarterbacks. I think a lot of times, though, we're looking for what he doesn't do. In 3 games, Rodney, I mean, this guy has accounted for 14 touchdowns. That's the most in the country. His stats against Wisconsin were just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the percentage was there. He went 12 of 17 for 196 yards and 3 touchdowns in the air, which is 12 completions for 196 yards. That's like, 15 yards of completion. He rushed 14 times for 75 yards and 2 scores, accounted for 5 touchdowns. And you and I discussed this on TITV. He's got a lot of room to get better. And I think Coach DeBoer and Coach Sheridan feel like he can get better. And all I'll say is if he keeps getting better and gets a little more comfortable in this offense and starts doing some of the small things, look out, man, because he's dynamic. And the stats are the stats. I mean, 14 touchdowns in 3 games, Rodney, is pretty impressive.
No, it's very impressive. The production, you could consider it's a new staff, new offense, a lot of different things to learn, and it takes time. And I mean, like you said, I think they're still piecing these things together. I think they're developing, all the weapons that they have, and Kalen DeBoer said, we're just kind of taking it gradually, step at a time, as Jalen is comfortable taking on more and more and more. And, there's some things that I think as you start to move along that are going to become important that we haven't seen yet. I think they need to develop more of a short and intermediate passing game to go with the down-the-field throws. But I do think at the same time, you look at I think he's made some strides in terms of just the comfort level of reading some of these, making zone read, keeping the ball, running it. I think he's starting to become more comfortable with that. I thought he made some good fakes, kept the ball, planted his foot, exploded into the end zone on that 10-yard touchdown run. Those are things that are signs, that are steps, and I think he'll continue to take these steps. And I think a lot of people, we're all guilty of this. You get caught up in what you're seeing at the moment, but you miss the little steps that are signs that they're moving forward and that this is going to continue to evolve. And I think that's what we're going to see with this offense. I think, hopefully, they've got to get some more guys involved, some more receivers. Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard's been getting more involved. We saw the touchdown throw to Josh Cuevas. That's great. We need to get some other guys involved. We need to see Kobe Prentice and Kendrick Law get some touches and kind of spread the ball around, because I think as you do that, you have more weapons. It certainly makes it much, much more difficult on the defense.
Ronnie, let's get to this offensive line because, we saw the South Florida game. You and I sat there in the press box and, it is what it is. It was a mess. It was a mess that night. But there's a reason Caden Proctor was rated by some as the top high school offensive tackle in the country when he came out. He wasn't available. Pritchett didn't play in that game until late in the game. And then Saturday, you saw this offensive line the way it was designed to look, with Proctor at left tackle and Booker back at left guard, and Brailsford really, I thought, had an incredible game against Wisconsin at center. Roberts, the mauler at right guard, and Pritchett there at right tackle. And we saw Vandermark and Formby get to play as well. I like keeping them in the rotation. But that starting five, to go from 1 week where the offensive line is just a mess to that type of performance, I thought was very impressive.
Yeah, and I think, again, you have to see, too, there's a little bit of difference was, the speed and the athleticism up front of South Florida. Yeah, that was really, and I think they did some things that confused Alabama a little bit. And like you said, the incohesiveness there, Proctor was out. All of a sudden, Booker's at left tackle, Vandermark's at left guard. There's a lot of uncertainty. I don't know about the communication that night. It certainly makes it really difficult on all of those guys. So there's a lot of factors, but what they did at Wisconsin, I thought was just watching them dominate up front at times in the run game was really, that hole that Jam Miller ran through. Gary, I know you can relate to this. It reminded me of that hole that DJ Dozier ran through.
1986.
Yeah, 1986.
Penn State against Alabama, yeah.
Yeah. So, I thought we saw a lot of really good signs. And you mentioned, Wilkin Formby, right tackle, and Gino Vandermark having the versatility to play center and guard. You've got to have, 7 guys. Mm-hmm. You want to have 7 guys at least that you can feel comfortable with. So I think they'll continue to play both of those guys. And, it's not out of the realm of possibility that one of them or both of them could eventually be starters if, something happens or whatever. So it's really important to have that depth.
All right, let's go ahead and kind of do a preliminary look ahead, and next week we'll be focused when you're with us on Monday on this game in great detail. But like I said, I'm going to enjoy the calm before the storm, but still, Georgia's coming in here. They're going to be without Tate Ratledge. They're outstanding All-American guard, tightrope surgery. They're a little banged up, but they get the bye as well. But it's amazing how quickly perception can change. Last week, all we've heard all year is that Georgia, for the most part, is going to come in here and curb stomp Alabama, even though the recent history would tell us otherwise. But they go to Kentucky and let's just be honest, give them credit. They won the game. All right, at the end of the day, one team wins and one team loses. But they could have lost. Maybe they should have lost, but they didn't. But 13-12. And now a lot of people are saying, well, maybe not so fast on Georgia. This is still the same Georgia team that everybody was picking as number one. We've seen close results before for them. I remember several close results for Nick Saban where Alabama got through it. It's not going to impact them. If anything, they're going to be even more laser focused for this game now. So for Alabama fans out there that want to play the comparison game, that Kentucky game doesn't mean a thing, Rodney. Alabama's going to win or lose based on how they play that night, and I hope people aren't judging Georgia by that one game.
Yeah, I think Kirby made a great point after the game. I watched him play Missouri a year or two ago. Very similar game. Could have lost that game. Last year they fell behind South Carolina. I think it was 14-3.
Yeah, and struggled at Auburn.
Won the game. Yeah, 27-20. That was a close game too. So they've had some things like that. They've had some, but they're still a really, really good team. I think defensively, what they give up 4 field goals in this game against Kentucky.
That's right.
It was almost like as I was watching Kentucky, it was like Stoops was saying, well, we know we're not going to score a touchdown, so we're going to settle for a field goal sometimes. They were really kind of conservative when they were in scoring territory, I thought. Again, I know that goes back a little bit to the quarterback was struggling throwing the ball. But listen, Georgia's extremely talented defensively. They're very, very fast. They're going to be hard to move the ball on. I mean, that's why you need multiple weapons that you can, challenge them with because, it makes it really difficult to guard all those guys. I've always thought, watching Kirby's defenses and stuff that they were pretty susceptible to teams with quarterbacks that could strike down the field, and receivers with speed that they have. They've had some difficulty covering some of Alabama's receivers, Mechie, Jamison Williams, et cetera. We saw Waddle a couple of years ago, 4 years ago. Devontae Smith, they riddled them pretty good. So I think, how Alabama attacks them is going to be really interesting to see. But they're really strong defensively. Now, offensively, they seem to struggle, Gary, and I've watched them in the Clemson game. And to me, from what I've seen, and I've seen some of those 2 games, the Clemson game and this last game against Kentucky, I didn't really see any explosive playmakers outside. Beck didn't seem to be finding those guys. Now, he's a really good quarterback. But that's what I'm really wondering is are we missing something here? Are they going to have a breakout game of some sort? Because I haven't seen those difference makers outside.
Rod, you stirred some people up on TiderInsider.com when you did your SEC top 5 after week 3. I get it. I've got no problem with it at all. It's just a week-to-week analysis of where these teams are at the moment. You went Texas, number 1, with Quinn Ewers or with Arch. You went Tennessee, I'll buy into the scoring machine for now, which I agree with. They have been incredibly impressive. Georgia, was Kentucky just an off night, question mark. Ole Miss at 4, the lane train is rolling, albeit versus weak competition right now. And number 5, Alabama. But you said might have the most potential of any team in the SEC. But when you're Tider Insider, and you knew when you put it out there, Mr. Tider Insider picking Alabama number 5 in the SEC, that didn't sit well with everybody.
No, it didn't. And again, I made it really clear. I said, look, the separation in these top 5 teams is really minute right now. And again, I'm just looking at the observations that I have, seeing the teams. I think Texas looks like the best team in the country that I've seen so far. Sure. I haven't really seen Ohio State, so I can't say much about them or whoever. I think USC, looked pretty good against LSU, but I haven't seen much of them. But so I say that to say this. It's just a real thin line right there. Alabama, I think potentially they've got so much room to get better. And I think, as I said, DeBoer, Sheridan, Kane Womack, they're putting the pieces together slowly. And I think that, 6 weeks from now, maybe 4 weeks from now, it may be totally different. But again, I wasn't sliding Alabama. You try to look at it objectively.
Right,
These are the teams that, Tennessee's a real scoring machine. Don't really know about Georgia yet. I talked about their defense, not really sure about their receivers and explosiveness. And then, Ole Miss, yeah, they look good. And let me tell you something. I talked to some people over at Mississippi yesterday, and they're like, this defensive front they have, Mario Nolan, not Mario Nolan. What's the kid's name from
Walter
Memphis?
Nolan?
Walter Nolan, yeah. Mario Nolan was a former player too. But anyway, Walter Nolan, the defensive lineman. Princely, I call him Princely U, that was originally played at Florida.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got a defensive front, Gary, that is really stout. It's not just scoring. They've got a strong defensive front. So, with all that said, I think the SEC, all 5 of those teams are top 7 type teams.
No doubt about it. And you said something too. You said objectively, and that's the problem. Is now people think if you run a site that's tied into a particular school, you're not supposed to be objective anymore, and you're supposed to be subjective all the time. But that's what makes you unique, is that you give your opinion based on your opinion and not on how, well, I think if I say this, it's gonna run another 50 subscribers to my site. That's not the way Rodney Orr does business, folks. And I know that is an unusual way of running a fan site these days. But I think that's why he's lasted over 25 years and stood the test of time, going on 30, is because he's done it the right way for many, many years. I did get a message from someone that is also a member of your board and asked Rod about his article yesterday about the DL. And I said he had an article on the DL, and it was this piece that I'm looking at right now. It was just some observations, but he was curious. You said defensively, I mentioned Saturday that the run D was a bit suspect the last 2 weeks. The DL specifically, flashes here and there. Seems inconsistent. I'm not going to read it all, but I'll let you expound, and you've already alluded to it. There's still some concerns about Alabama's defensive front in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, that was just what I saw. I mean, I think they were out of position sometimes, just my observations. And I see some flashes, though. I mean, I see Tim Keenan he's played pretty well. LT Overton he's got a chance to be really good. But I want to see Jaheim Otis consistently, Tim Smith, some of these other guys. You've got to be able to play at a high level with, enough players that you can rotate in. And I just see some inconsistencies there. And that was what I observed. And then Kane Womack came out on Monday and he said, we've got to play a lot better against the run, which is exactly what I was thinking. He said, we've got to play better up front. We've got to be better fundamentally. We've got to be better technique-wise. We've got a lot of improvement there. He made it clear. He wasn't being critical, as I pointed out in that little piece you're talking about. He wasn't being critical, but it was clear that he felt like they should be better up front defensively. So I think that's another area that we have to watch, because I'm telling you, Georgia will come in here, and I know that Ratledge is injured. They'll come in here, and they're going to physically say, we're going to run the football right at you. So that's something to really keep an eye on, that Alabama-Georgia game.
No doubt about it. Before we close out the segment, I want to get your thoughts on Ewers and Manning. With all your Texas connections, you still follow it closely. And Quinn Ewers, many felt like, was the Heisman favorite. He gets hurt. Manning comes in against, Texas San Antonio, and he lights it up. 9 of 12 for 223, 4 touchdowns, and ran one in from 67 yards out. And now people are saying he was running 25 miles an hour or whatever. I get it. He's a Manning. His two uncles won Super Bowls. His grandfather, Archie, incredible Southern football legend. He has been groomed for this. I think he's tremendous. But this could turn into something that Sarkisian has to manage. That there's a lot of Texas people, and I'm talking about, I've been on their boards, people that love Texas football that think that they need to stay with Manning over Ewers, which is ridiculous to me. They get ULM this week, but your thoughts. I mean, I guess this is the downside of having this kid on your roster, is no matter how good your starting quarterback is, when he comes in and plays like he did the other night, fans are savoring the moment and wanting more of Arch Manning.
Yeah, and I think the good thing here is for Texas is the kind of person that Arch Manning is, and they're not making any demands that he play. They understand Quinn Ewers is the quarterback. He's willing to wait his opportunity, but he had one come open, this last game, and he produced. I mean, I think it's a great sign to be able to have a quarterback like Quinn Ewers. If he can stay healthy, he's going to win a lot of games. I mean, Quinn Ewers, what Sark has done with him has been pretty amazing. I mean, he's had the talent, he's had the ability, but he's put it all together. And I think, having a quarterback like Arch in reserve, because Ewers does have an injury history, we know that, is fantastic. But the good thing is for Texas is that there's not going to be a chemistry issue, because Arch Manning, they know his opportunity's coming. He's going to be patient. And he's going to be really supportive of Quinn Ewers and what Sark decides to do, which, of course, is going to be Quinn Ewers as our quarterback.
Yep, I agree with you there. I think Sark will know how to navigate it, but it's fascinating watching the situation with their fan base in Arch Manning. Great stuff as always, Rodney, and I know TiderInsider.com is in full rocking and roll gear.
Yes, it is. Man, Saturdays are just, full blast from probably 8 a.m. to midnight. But it's TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. Get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check. Gives you all our premium information, but also our all sports forum. That's our community of Alabama fans there that you alluded to, Gary. And it's like I said, it's pretty much nonstop.
Great information. Thanks, Rod.
Okay, take care.
Riverside Feed, Adams Heating and Cooling, Tuscaloosa Tractor, Cypress Supply, and Anders Hardware. Complete contest rules online at TuscaloosaThread.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, the low 65. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Friday and Saturday, hot and dry. Lots of sunshine both days with highs very close to 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Your home for Alabama Crimson Tide football. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:26. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show, and we got Larry the Music Man coming up in the next segment. And Chase did a good job of getting us through that break, so we've actually got a couple minutes to talk here. I thought we might literally just have to come back and pitch it to another break, but we don't, because he got us back kind of on time. So I don't want to just come back and say, hey, we'll be right back after this. So we got a minute to talk. So I thought, first of all, that conversation with Rodney Orr I thought was fascinating. Some great insight, really good conversation. And I know he posts our segment every week to his website, and it'll be available on our podcast, our full podcast, which is at Spotify or wherever you find your podcast. And then our podcast center at Tide109.com is where a lot of people go, because Chase puts it up. He puts up the full hours, 1 hour, 2 hour, but he also puts up the interviews individually. So keep that in mind. Tide109.com podcast center is a great place to listen to these interviews or re-listen to them, because I thought Rodney had some terrific information in that segment. So we'll have that posted very soon. One other thought on what next week is going to be about, because again, I'm not in, I guess when you're a sportscaster, it's a little bit different than as a fan. I'm trying to get through each week, and I'm going to enjoy, as I said, I'm going to enjoy the bye weekend this weekend. I'm not going to lie to you, because next week is going to be full bore, full speed ahead, no stop. So, but when it gets here next week, and Alabama has had so many hyped games under Nick Saban, and we have seen this so many times, game of the century and all this. And, and I do wish Georgia was number one. I hate that they dropped down to number two. But still, next week, with the recent history between these two teams and with the fact that it's a top 5 undefeated matchup, SEC opener, with it being right now, this game is going to feel is bigger than any of those games, whether it was 2011 LSU, whatever, 2019 LSU, whatever, national championship games. This game will be the biggest one for a lot of Alabama fans in the history of the program, because it'll be the immediacy of it. When you're going through it, you'll see the vibe, you'll see the attention, you'll see all the different media outlets here, and you'll say, wow. And for younger fans, it may be the biggest game you've ever experienced in terms of the hype, in terms of the excitement. So that's coming next week. What's coming up next here on the Gary Harris Show is Larry the Music Man, and we'll have another great segment talking about all the history of Southern music, his experience with the Allman Brothers, and more. And we also, take phone calls for Larry, because a lot.
240-8157. 800-240-8157. That's 800-240-8157.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports, and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. It's time for Larry the Music Man, and I decided to intro with a little Atlanta rhythm section today, Larry. I know you got to love that too, buddy. I love the lyrics in that song. Tomorrow I might go as far as suicide, but I'm not going to let it bother me tonight.
How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, Larry. How about that intro music?
Man, and I was going to talk about Doraville later on, maybe not today, but there, if you draw a line from Tuscaloosa to Atlanta and go down to Macon and Jacksonville, you got a pretty good idea of Southern rock right there, the birth.
Absolutely.
I'm not being biased toward the other, but you got to call it like it is. Alabama, Georgia, and Florida really put some heavy hitters out.
Well, you sent me some great picks this morning, and you sent me the road and railroad tracks that run beside Rose Hill Cemetery. This exact spot influenced Greg Allman to write Midnight Rider. And then you sent me the alley next to Capricorn Records, where the album cover for Live at Fillmore East, which was obviously the breakthrough album for the Allman Brothers with that great mural. It's absolutely beautiful. Then the most fascinating one, though, you sent me an old black and white Polaroid of your band, your road band from 69 to 71, and you played 27 states with these guys, and this is a moment in time. I mean, you're sporting the tank top, and again, these pants, I don't know, I guess these are tell me about these pants that you're wearing.
Well, the pants, actually, I'm not sure in that photo. I think I had on sneakers because I had to play in sneakers most of the time, even if I had dress boots on or wherever we were playing a club. I bought those, let me get it right. I bought those up north at a place. It was a big clothing store back in the early 70s, and they sold like hip clothes. It was something about it was American clothing or something. It was like a chain. And they had all the hip clothes, and a lot of bands would go there, to these stores and buy their clothes, stage clothes. But I wore moccasin boots with those pants, the pants tucked down in them. And I actually had a long vest with tassels, and on the end were little bells, back then that was popular. We were quite hip. That was a conservative photo. I was the kid in the band. I was trying to grow a mustache, and that the sad point. The part about all that, we didn't have the technology to take photos, and much less hold on to them. That came from my guitar. Yeah, my guitar player's wife that I played with for 50 years in that photo. She found those. He passed a few years back, and we've been talking, and she sends me stuff. That was in the studio, and we had a photo made. That was a promo photo. The clubs, we were seeing clubs, and that was among many. But somebody took that with a camera down there.
Well, it's a great pick, man. It's a classic pick, and you're rocking, as we said, the United States flag pants and the tank shirt. And what was
was no disrespect.
No, not at all. Flag. Not at all. No, we get that. I
caught a lot of flag in different states out in Texas. I had a guy get sideways with me in a diner after a show.
Oh, Lord.
And he was insulted, and that's just not what it was. Because the Vietnam War was raging, and, you had your protesters. We were musicians. We wasn't protesters nor political.
Right. What was the name of the band?
We were called the Beethovens.
Okay.
A kind of a corny name, but I'm going to tell you, we were a heck of a road band. Everybody sang but me. We were covering all the covers. From 1966 up to the 70s, we were a good club band. We were real popular on the Army bases, the military bases, because we could play hard rock on Friday night and then go play country on Saturday night with officers. So cool. We got booked. Kind of like that was the same time the Candyman were playing and all these bands we've been talking about. The Candyman were elite.
If you want to get on with Larry, folks, 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. We've had a lot of fun with people remembering bands that they grew up watching in the South, and Larry is familiar with most of them, as we've obviously talked about.
Gary, I appreciate people calling in. I want to go back to a call last week about the band Cellcat.
Yep.
was John Weicker III with Court Pickett. Cellcat was a duo. The connection with John Townsend, they wrote songs together. You know, we talked about the Sanford Townsend Band. But Cellcat had that big hit, Motorcycle Mama.
Mm-hmm.
You might remember.
I remember the song, yep.
And the album is very collectible. It came out in 1972. But the connection with Court Pickett, see, here you go with that line again. The Alabama connection to Macon was Court Pickett ended up with Chuck Leavell in his first band in Macon, Sundown, and we talked about that. And I'm going to send you that album. I have it. It'll show you Chuck in his famous straw hat that he still wears today.
Awesome.
But see, that was a connection. That's just what blows my mind. And Weicker was a very good vocalist. And they had they broke up. They had a hit on number 12 on Billboard with Motorcycle Mama, but then, they went their separate ways. But that was a connection with Court Pickett, with Sundown with Chuck Leavell. So there you go.
Yeah, what a neat story. What a neat story. Yeah.
If anybody remembers John Weicker, he went to the University of Alabama. He's from Decatur, Alabama. He was quite a vocalist. Had a very unique sound.
The connections are just unbelievable. As you said, you guys were all out on the road, building this type of music, and there's so many tie-ins. Let's get punch him through, because I'm scared I'll disconnect everybody. RV is going to jump on here with you with a question or a comment. Good morning, RV. You're on with Larry Butler.
Good morning, RD.
Hey, Larry. Hey, Larry and Gary. Larry, I want to talk to you about a band that down my way. I'm South Alabama, but the name of the group was Wet Willie. And
oh my Lord!
I know they.
Oh yeah.
They got their start over around Macon. I know, but Jimmy Hall and that group. I really enjoyed their music.
Jimmy Hall. I see Jimmy Hall at GABA. In fact, I sent Gary a picture of his sister Donna.
Sure did.
And from a book signing. I actually got to play with one of his not the original keyboard player, but a guy from Macon that's been playing with Jimmy. We did a couple of gigs together, but yeah, I see Jimmy. Jimmy will pop up and a lot of time be one of the guests, for the music shows over the weekend. I'm not sure if he's in the lineup next weekend, but yeah, man, you talking about I was a band right there. I was a hard-working band, and Phil Walden jumped all over, man. That was his hardest-working band because they play anywhere with anybody.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Did you ever hear them locally around the scene?
Yeah, and, of course, back in those days, I was a rock and roll DJ there in South Alabama, but one of the keyboard players for Wet Willie was Michael Duke, and he was from Thomasville.
What was his last name again?
Michael Duke.
Okay.
And because RV's from Thomasville, and so you're saying Michael was from Thomasville as well, RV?
Yeah. I knew him. He played with Willie for a while, played keyboard.
He must have been before the Anthony came in with him. He had been in Vietnam and came back. Evidently, he had played with Willie in the beginning. And he joined them. That's interesting. So you really heard him in the beginning then?
Yeah. That song "Keep On Smiling" went to I think about number 10 in 1974, and I listen to 70s on 7 on Sirius a lot, but I never hear that song for some reason.
Well, I played it on my show, and I also, of course, Weekend is one of my all-time favorites too. So yeah, I love giving. That's kind of one of the bands, RV, that when you listen to them. When I used to play all the music on Friday before I had to start worrying about the lyrics for the podcast, I spotlighted Wet Willie. I love them, and they, RV. Do you remember? Larry, they and Jimmy Hall can still sing beautifully, but they came back before. Remember when we were having that before they tore up the downtown and put that Embassy Suites Hotel there? We would have those City Fest. Remember that, RV?
Yes.
And Wet Willie came. I think Willie Nelson was a headliner. This was back in the early 2000s, but Willie already. Probably about 2004 or 5, his voice already was kind of more of a talking type singer, and they had a couple other bands, but Wet Willie stole the show, Larry and RV. I mean, they absolutely cranked it out. and I felt bad for anybody that had to come on after them that night because they were killing it.
Let
me tell you something. You can go on
what a wet willy is.
You can go on YouTube and Google Don Kirshner Saturday Night in Macon, and Wet Willie played the part that afternoon. This was a whole weekend show. Remember Don Kirshner's rock concert?
Yeah, very well.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. You watch that video, they start off with That's All Right Mama, and that'll give you an idea. Everybody that's never really seen them live, just how darn great they were, man. You couldn't, the energy Jimmy Hall had, you couldn't top it.
Yeah, outstanding. And when he cranked out that harmonica, good stuff.
Oh, man.
Good stuff. No, I think we got 3 Wet Willie lovers right here now. That's for sure. But RV, you asked, Larry, maybe you know, RV, maybe you know, where did the Wet Willie band name come from?
Wet Willie was it was from a black blues artist. He was blind.
Okay. Did you know that, RV?
Yeah.
No, we in school we used to stick our finger in our mouth and stick it in somebody's ear.
Called a Wet Willie, yeah.
We called that a Wet Willie.
Yeah.
Well, it came from a song also, and I can't give you all the details on my mind on top of my head, but yeah, there was a little blues. Of course, they were a blues band. Jimmy Hall was one of the best white blues singers there's ever been. I mean, if not, I'll put him in the top 10. Him and Greg Allman. Okay. I mean, they just no doubt about it.
But I love that name. Wet Willie for a Southern rock band. That is a great name. Good stuff.
Well, they got to Macon and change their name, And
yeah, they were Fox.
That's right. I brought that up last week, Gary.
You did. And that was something I did not know. From the time I
think I said member Fox, somebody
you did, and because I always knew him as Wet Willie. So, but I like the Wet Willie moniker better than Fox.
Yeah, me too.
So it worked out well.
As soon as they got to Macon, the whole vibe changed, and it was Wet Willie. The Wet Willie band, hardest working. Bill Walden always said, hardest working band at Capricorn Records.
No doubt. Hey, thank you, RV. Good stuff, man.
Good call, brother. Good call. Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll get another call on. Go ahead and punch Tom through as well. Tom's back with us, Larry. Good morning, Tom.
Hey, what'd y'all say? Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Hey, there's the sheriff. Every time I hear I shot the sheriff, I think of Tom.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, Larry. I wear that title with pride, buddy.
You do.
What did y'all say about the name Wet Willie? How it came to who knew the answer to that?
Larry did. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, I may be wrong about it. I mean, I'm sure you can Google anything now, but the origin was a blues artist and a blues song.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Willie. Yeah.
Well, their first album had somebody doing a Wet Willie on the cover. Remember that one?
Exactly.
And that's what RV was saying, talking about the Wet Willie.
I'm sure that had a
part of it. Both stories could be true. It could have been inspired by, the blues artist, and at the same time.
I'm not disputing that.
But you're right, they did.
But I do know the album cover with the finger going in the ear and the water drops shooting out. You know what I mean?
I think it was a little both, and I'm going to tell you what. I'm not even going to Google it. I know you can find the details. I'm going to ask Donna Hall next week when we're up there. I know she'll be there. She sits in with a lot of the opening acts that we have downtown and does backup singing.
Yeah,
but I would definitely say the blues had a lot to do with it, too.
Yeah, I got a question for you. Larry, you remember the band back in the 60s, the Association?
Oh, my Lord. Cherish, Wendy, yes, sir.
And wasn't two of those members brothers, and they were from Birmingham?
I don't know.
I'm not. Well, wait a minute. You may be right, because I'm going to tell you a story I remember.
Okay.
For some reason, two of them were hog farmers. I'm serious. So they were off the farm. They were raised on a farm, so that very well could be true. Because to be honest, I'm not sure about that, but I remember.
Yeah, I think I'm right about that, but it's just something I had read, and it's been a long time since I read it, and I always I enjoyed their vocals, their harmony. I thought they were good, man. And the bands that do a lot of harmony, like the Eagles. I love those 4-part harmonies when bands do that, and Association was somewhat like that as well. They had really good voices, had a good tenor voice, and
you don't hear that anymore. You don't hear. Looking from 1965 through the 70s and the early 70s, the vocal harmony was up front, especially in the late 60s. The 4 seasons. Sure were. I mean, yeah, we could sit here and do a show on that. I mean, just
exactly. But that's some of my favorite bands that are really strong with the harmonies. I love that part.
Great stuff.
There was a group called Badfinger.
Oh yeah, Badfinger from
London.
Killer.
They were really underrated. But their music's great, man.
Paul McCartney signed them to Apple Records.
That's right.
And Badfinger had some of the, and they were on their way to incredible success. And they had, I think, the lead singer, maybe 2 members of the band, committed suicide.
Who was it? Who are you talking about?
Remember, Tom? No matter what you are, I will always be with you. Yeah, they were great.
That's it.
Yeah, they were great. Hey, speaking of...
thank y'all.
Thank you, Tom. I've been doing... Larry, I've been doing a little Google research while you and Tom were talking, and I did pull up the famous cover of the Wet Willie with the water drops from the 74 album, but I was doing some more research, and Keep On Smiling came up with... I know there was the single cover of them just standing there as a band, but I found a African-American blues singer... just sitting outside of looks like an old storefront or something, playing a guitar on one of one of the record covers for Keep On Smiling. So I think both of those stories are true. That the name was
yeah. You're right. That was filmed. There was a story with that. I have the original cut. It's the guy sitting in the front of a store. Yeah. And the Wet Willie was probably a humor part of it. But it was blues related,
because he's playing a guitar and he's got a harmonica around his neck and a sign. I can't read the sign, but it looks like he's playing for tips there. So really cool cover there. So anyway, great stuff, man. As always, just
I got the album right behind me. I can't get up and pull it out, but that was there was a story with that guy in the band.
Obviously.
So and they gave him that. They let him. They did a little tribute to him and let him be on the album cover, which is their best album. If that put them over the top, Keep On Smiling.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, another great segment, Larry. Just the coolest stuff, and we appreciate the folks calling in and sharing their stories because I love music as we can tell, and I do have a pretty good history, but there's a lot of stuff I don't know, and so getting to kind of relive some of these stories, and now we're getting one more call. We'll try to get in real quick. I've got to watch this break, Larry. I have a tendency to bust the show when I get carried away.
That's cool.
We don't want to do that, but let's see what we got. Is this for Larry? All right, we're going to get one more call on real quick. This is going to be May. Go ahead and punch her through. Hey, May. Hello.
Yes. Hey, this is Amanda. Larry is better.
That's my woman. That's my girl.
Well, how did you?
That's my better half.
Where did we come up with May? Is that something is that a nickname?
Yeah,
that is a nickname.
Okay.
Yes, he kind of stole it from my niece because she loves him. He said he could have it.
Well, I'm glad we squeezed you in. But no, I've been enjoying the segment. I know a lot of people are. You got to be as the significant other. You got to be really enjoying it.
Oh, I love all his stories. Yes, every day there's something new that I learn as far as music from the Music Man.
Yeah,
and I've known him for many, many years, and we've been serious for how long now, babe? 4 years.
Oh boy!
Yeah.
Well, you got Larry. You gonna put a ring? You gonna put a ring on it?
Yeah, I gave it to her. Yeah, I'm just old man.
He already has.
Okay.
We got a little age difference, but she's got a lot of smarts and maturity, and she's taking care of me. And I converted her from Georgia to Alabama. She's a Georgia girl. How about that?
Yeah.
Well, that's the power of persuasion when it comes to Alabama football. That's one of those things. Most Alabama fans aren't going to give in on that one, Amanda.
Well, we're going to GABA. We'll do a segment on GABA next week, and this will be her third trip up there, and she really enjoys it. They
awesome.
love it there.
That's awesome. Hey, guys, thank y'all so much. I got to hit this break, but appreciate it very, very much. Another great segment with Larry the Music Man, and glad we could get Amanda on there as well. We'll come back and wrap up the show right after this on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC.
Weekday mornings at 6 a.m. The Martin Houston Show.
Join the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier, powered by Box Eye Care. It's a Thursday edition. We'll have recruiting, and then it'll be all things offense with Alabama. We'll look at what Nick Sheridan had to say. We'd love to get you in on the conversation on the Empowerment Strategy and Solutions Hotline. That's 205-342-9904. Or join us on the live stream, and you can add your thoughts, your questions, and your comments there. You're listening to Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier right here on your home for Alabama's.
Your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis. And visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today, the high 86 degrees. Mostly clear tonight, the low 65. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Friday and Saturday, hot and dry. Lots of sunshine both days with highs very close to 90. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Need to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Then subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Time flies when you're having fun, and we're all out of time. Jam-packed show today. I hope you enjoyed it. Back tomorrow morning with a Thursday edition, including Ellis Johnson and D. Orlando Ledbetter with the Falcons Report. Catch me on TV tonight with the local sports on WVUA 23. And as I said, back tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the Gary Harris Show. T-Town Sports Daily is coming up next at 11 a.m. Have a great day, everybody. Enjoy this beautiful weather.